What is it? Dragons?
Strangers like you bring war. I've seen enough war.
Good. War is not new to Falkreath. You have only to stand in our cemetery to see that.
Morwen of Skarl Village sent me to ask a favor of you.
Morwen, you say? Now there's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Left to join her mother's people on Solstheim, as I recall. I knew her parents quite well, you know. Bera and Ulfar were good people, very much in love. Now, what can I do for young Morwen?
She wants this placed at her mother's grave.
Ah, yes, Bera's silver necklace. It was a wedding gift, and she rarely took it off. I'll be glad to oblige. What a touching gesture, to display the symbol of her devotion in such a way. Tell Morwen I'll be happy to grant her request. I'm sure it will bring joy to her mother and father as they walk in Aetherius.
Thanks to you, the people of Skyrim will continue to have a place to study magic, even if most of them resent you for it.
If you have a moment, could you help me with something?
Good to see Skyrim still has such fine people. You give an old man hope.
I found what you were looking for.
Ah, yes, there it is. Thank you so much.
Is there anything I should be aware of?
Actually, yes, Arch Mage. I believe there is. We've been contacted by the Jarl of Morthal. It would seem there's some sort of disturbance. From what few details we were given, it sounds quite familiar. I suspect that the power released by the Eye of Magnus was not fully contained and has coalesced in this part of Skyrim. I do hope you still have the Staff of Magnus someplace. I suspect you're going to need it.
Can you train me in alteration magic?
I can certainly share a bit of what I know.
Is there anything more I can learn about alteration magic?
At this very moment, no. However, well, I've been working on something. An improvement on the Ebony Flesh spell. I've made progress, but then hit a snag. I think perhaps you could help.
What's the problem?
I need dragon scales, and not just any dragon scales. As I've said, I made some progress using the essence of dragon scales, but they're just not quite potent enough. My knowledge of Skyrim's history is far from complete, but I did some research and discovered two things. First, there are ancient references to dragon heart scales. What little I could learn suggests they may be what I need. Second, there are stories of a dagger called Calvozine's Fang, said to be sharp enough to carve individual scales off a dragon. First, you'll need to retrieve the dagger, then use it to carve a few scales off a dragon. Presumably a deceased one.
I'll return shortly with the dragon scales.
That would be wonderful. I'll be sure and have everything ready. This is exciting, isn't it? Until next time.
I still need some help, if you can spare the time.
What do you need help with?
We're all trying to become better mages, right? Well, I need someone I can practice a few spells on. Nothing dangerous, really. Would you be willing to assist me?
Definitely on the right track. Results.
Okay, I'll help.
Oh, good. I was afraid I'd have to go ask J'zargo. Now, you just stand there. Please hold still, and don't move.
Wouldn't do to say all.
There. Now I...
Smell magic in the air.
Oh dear. That wasn't supposed to
Smells
happen.
like a
Do
rain
you
thunderstorm.
feel all right? You look very, green. I am so very sorry. I went over this again and again, and I was sure it would have better results.
Tell me this isn't permanent.
It's not. It shouldn't be. You'll be back to normal in no time. And when you are, we can try this again, and I'll be sure to get it right. Until next time. I still need
What
some
do you
help.
need?
If you can spare the time.
What do you think of the college now?
You mean after they dug about in a tomb, dragged out a weapon of unknowable and immense power, nearly blew up the north coast of Skyrim, and only just managed to stop it from happening? Thanks to you.
You don't have to be an ass.
I'm just teasing. Honestly, a lot of magic's been fascinating to see. And you're pretty spoilt with that library. It was good to get to know the people who live here. They seem really happy, even if it's a bit of a circus.
Because this place is a haven for mages.
Aye, I think I see that now. Maybe I've been prejudiced. Something for me to work on.
What's on your mind?
You're an expert of destruction. The elements of nature bend to your will.
All right, sweetheart.
I still need some help, if you can spare the time. I'd better get going.
The Arch Mage triumphant. College, Skyrim, all of Tamriel owes you a great debt.
If this is another dwarven trinket...
I understand you're an elf who knows how to get things.
All right, let's not overdo it. Meet me in my quarters.
Why? Because I'm a Dunmer? We didn't all grow up in dwarven ruins, you know.
Well, yes. Sorry to have troubled you.
I'm quite pleased that we're back to business as usual. There's certainly nothing illicit going on here, Arch Mage. You can be quite sure of that.
I understand you have something of Onmund's. He wants it back.
Oh my, how precious. Onmund is too afraid to deal with me himself, and so he's sent you. I'll make this very simple for you. All my trades are final. Onmund knew this ahead of time and went through with it anyway. So there's nothing more to be said.
It's in everyone's best interest if you return the amulet.
Oh, I suppose, but you keep this to yourself. I don't want it being known that I go back on my trades, understand?
What's not allowed here?
Purposely killing your fellow college members is a bad idea. I'd advise against it. Theft and assault can get you into trouble as well. As for research, well, a sufficient explanation will cover almost anything. If you're going to need live test subjects for your experiments, it's easier to do that off of college grounds.
I never would have suspected that the Eye could be so dangerous. Tolfdir is right, isn't he? Magic really can overwhelm you.
Here's your amulet.
I didn't think he'd really give it back. Thank you, friend. It's good to know I can count on you.
The whites take you! You'll die this day, dragon.
Excavation Leader's notes. Second Sun's Height 4E201. The dawn is breaking. Vanos has successfully pierced the veil of the liminal barrier, but there is much work to be done. We have unearthed an anchor point, but must still reconstruct the gate itself, and even when it is complete, the veil of the liminal barrier remains. Vanos, in his infinite wisdom, continues to work day and night to find a way to break it. It may be but a singular gateway, but Valken, Gatanas, and Methats await us on the other side, preparing to march for our Lord. I will keep the faith for Lord Dagon. 10th Sun's Height, 4E201. Vanos has been studying all known information about the Mysterium Xarxes, consulting with Dagon's Dremora, and experimenting tirelessly, but is still unable to open the gate. However, he believes that an object may exist which could be strong enough to hold the portal open. What kind of artifact could hold such power? Even 1,000 soul gems would likely dissolve in the presence of a sigil stone. We must redouble our efforts. I have sent additional scouts to Solstheim and Cyrdiil to learn anything they can. 20 Sun's Height 4E201. One of my scouts has returned from Bruma with promising information. The ancient Aelids are well known for their Welkin stones, rare ethereal fragments comprised of powerful meteoric glass. A great Welkin stone, the most powerful of these stones, was typically held within the heart of each Aelid city, but these stones have long since been plundered or lost to time. Researchers have speculated for centuries that more great Welkin stones may exist, but none have ever been found. The last great Welkin stone seen on record was in the Third Era, when it was snatched and used to bring the downfall of our Lord. Then it was ultimately Mehrunes' undoing, but irony may be smiling upon us. Something of such power could be exactly what we need to bring the gate to full power. One researcher has set their sights on the ancient Aelid ruin of Rielle as such a place where a great Welkin stone may exist. Many have explored its depths through the years, though none have ever found a trace of such a thing. Could a great Welkin stone truly be hidden deep within Rielle? I've told my scouts to capture this researcher and bring him to me. We must learn all we can. Second last seed 4E201. My scouts captured the Iliad researcher from Bruma, but upon returning, the Vigil of Stendarr were seen guarding the Pale Pass. My scouts had to detour through the wilderness of the Gerald Mountains to avoid them. Could the Vigil be aware of our movements? Is there a traitor among us? We cannot risk any sort of confrontation with the Vigil until we have the full might of Dagon behind us. There's too much at stake. While interrogating the researcher, I learned that Rielle is structurally weak, making entry difficult. With the Vigil blocking the Pale Pass, this greatly inhibits our expedition. He also spoke of other dangers, but I dare not repeat them, lest I give substance to his ravings. We must find a way into Rielle. Vanos and I have agreed that we have no time to waste. I have selected only our most trusted disciples to set up a base camp in the mountains west of Iverstead. We will operate under the darkness of night to excavate our own pathway through the Gerald Mountains and into Rielle. It will take time, but it is the only way. 14th last seed 4E201. After much blood and sweat, we finally reach Rielle through its northwest corner, but the challenges within have proven to be quite deadly. The only man who returned alive claimed he barely escaped the clutches of an undead monster. Several have gone inside only to never return, and I am unsure how many more souls I can spare. All this, and yet no signs of a secret chamber or Welkin stone. There are legible portions of untranslated words on the pages retrieved from the researcher in Bruma. I've summoned one of my best scholars, Janus, to assist me in my Iliad studies. Perhaps there is something we are missing. 15th last seed 4E201. According to the books Magic from the Sky and Glories and Laments, the ancient Aelids believed that Nirn was composed of 4 basic elements: earth, water, air, and light. Janus and I feel this is extremely important, maybe the key to obtaining the stone. The incomplete texts recovered from the researcher in Bruma make mention of previously unseen elemental shards. But what are they? Where are they? We will prepare another team to descend upon Rielle with this information. We're running low on supplies and may need to delay the search if we lose any more men. 17th last seed 4E201. Vanos has sent an urgent communication. The vigilance of Stendarr have increased their presence and have been seen questioning townsfolk. Acolyte Scorvild and Priestess Enakane have gone missing, their whereabouts unknown. It is best for us to assume the Vigil knows of our plans. There is no time left to delay. Janus must join one last expedition team to locate the Great Welkin Stone. I will send the last of my guards along with him as protection. This is our last chance. Dagon, give us strength.
I was just doing what I do best. Janus's Journal. 15th last seed, 4E201. I was called upon to assist with the Rielle expedition and have been studying urgently, without rest. I was entrusted with a page from an ancient Ayleid text, received from a researcher in Bruma. My Ayleidun is not very good, but I was able to understand something about elemental shards and sleeping guardians within the ruins. None of this would be a problem if Vanos had granted me more time, but he and our Lord are impatient. But I will make do. My research is what matters. The Ayleids believe the four elements to be air, water, earth, and light. From what I understand, shards representing these four elements may serve as keys to certain hidden chambers. It is fascinating to ponder how many great Welkin stones may be hidden among ruins thought to be barren. If there is a hidden chamber within Rielle, this may be how they are opened. But how? Where? At the cost of their lives, many of our disciples have searched nearly every corner of the ruin, but have yet to discover anything. I will study the texts further. 17th last seed 4E201. Vanos has issued urgent orders to descend upon Rielle with the last of our expedition team to try to find the Great Welkin Stone. I am to go with them and lead the team. The Vigil of Stendarr are assumed to be on our trail, so we must act quickly. I must not allow this latest wrinkle to deter my research. It is almost within my grasp. 17th last seed 4E201. Woe to those who entered before me and met their fate. I imagined not the horrors that awaited me. Our persistence in this expedition has awoken alien wights, guardians who have lain in wait for untold centuries, sealed in their sarcophagi, awakening to protect the ancient powers within. And yet, all is not lost. I found 4 Welkin Stone holders in the Rielle crypt, each colored gold, and positioned to the north, south, east, and west. The directions correspond to each of the 4 elements. North, upward to the air, well, in the sky. South, for the earth, Sersen, under our feet. East, for the light, Alata, of the rising sun. West, for when the water, Nen, devours it. A diagram in the Iliad text matches this pattern. If these shards are retrieved and placed in the correct holders, I believe the secret chamber containing the Great Welkin Stone will make itself known. My team has been slain, and I have been injured. Pity, as I have heard rumors of an area underneath the college where this stone could have been put to better use. I just need to hold out a little longer.
love that about you, do you know that?
What was that?
Is someone there?
My blade is thirsting for blood. Give up! That was excellent.
Huh? Now you're mine.
Vigil's orders. The Vigil is the last line of defense between the light and darkness. If the Defilers manage to open the gate, then we are bound by Stendarr to not let a single abomination pass through it. Find the gate and secure it. Whatever it takes, we must hold the line. Vigilant Enforcer's Journal. 14th Sun's Height 4E201. Our spies in the cities have reported hearing whispers of the mythic dawn among the populace. Though the last of those abominations were slain hundreds of years ago, we must take all reports seriously and stay alert. 25th Sun's Height 4E201. Word from our agents in Cyrodiil say that a band of mysterious travelers descended upon Bruma, where they asked a well-known researcher many questions about the Ayleids, the ruins of Rielle specifically. They also asked about great Welkin stones, which haven't been seen for hundreds of years. I'm sending a few scouts to the Pale Pass to keep an eye on things. If there is darkness at play, the light of the Vigil will find it. Second last seed 4E201. The same group of questionable travelers was seen traversing the Pale Pass into Bruma again, this time under the cover of night. They were followed, but were lost in the shadow. Our agents set up a blockade to stop and question all who passed, but the group was not seen traveling through there again. If they did return to Skyrim, they would have had to do so through the Gerald Mountains by moonlight. Stendarr have mercy upon anyone lost among those jagged slopes in the darkness. Third last seed 4E201. The researcher in Bruma has gone missing, and I must assume it was at the hand of these mysterious travelers. If the rumors of the mythic dawn are true, Stendarr help us if they get their hands on a great Welkin stone. What could they possibly need such a powerful artifact for? I have dispatched agents and spies to every corner of Skyrim to inquire among the townsfolk and track anyone who is remotely suspicious. 10th last seed 4E201. We have begun following a man named Scorvild. We believe he may be a Daedra worshipper and possibly a member of the Mythic Dawn. His brother was recently reported missing, along with numerous others in the same time frame. We will follow his movements closely. 16th last seed 4E201. After several weeks of observing various suspects, we decided to capture an individual believed to be a high-ranking member of the Mythic Dawn. She was clothed plainly and kept the guise of a merchant by day. We searched her quarters and found red robes bearing the sun symbol of Mehrunes Dagon. We also found a journal which claims that an Oblivion Gate has been reforged and attempts to open it are underway. I have decided to call for reinforcements. If what I read is true, the Vigil of Stendarr alone may not be enough to stop what is unfolding. This Mythic Dawn priest would not yield any information and died during interrogation. It was a slow death, but the Vigil has no mercy for Daedra worshippers. Can the power of a great Welkin stone be corrupted and used for their twisted purpose? This cannot happen. We must find this Oblivion Gate. Within the journal was a torn page containing the following. In the shade of Velothi, where rivers run black, shores stone at our feet, white shore at our back, windhelm on our shoulders, beyond the fair night, before the dawn rises, red scars bleed the light. This could be a clue as to their location. I will send someone to investigate while I prepare a small regiment and determine our next move. 17th last seed 4E201. 3 of my agents who were observing suspects went missing overnight. I believe they have been captured by the Mythic Dawn. Stendarr, have mercy upon them. We should have been more careful when capturing one of their priests, but we needed to act quickly. I have assembled a group to descend upon Rielle. We must act now. We may be able to ambush the Daedra worshippers. Lastly, one of my scouts believe the riddle does indeed point to the location where the Mythic Dawn are hiding. We need to approach with caution, lest we be outnumbered. Blessings of Stendarr upon us.
Try not to set anything on fire, all right?
It's actually quite beautiful here.
I am your sword and your shield.
I'm here to collect the plantation's profits.
Very good, ma'am. All right, then.
You're back! I got you a present, Mama. I hope you like it. Mama! Wow, really? What do you get me? Thanks.
The Argonian Account, Book 3, by Wagi and Yard. Decimus Scoti's Continued Adventures in Blackmarsh, Volume 3. Decimus Scotti was supposed to be in Gideon, a thoroughly imperialized city in southern Blackmarsh, arranging business dealings to improve commerce in the province on behalf of Lord Vannick's building commission and its clients. Instead, he was in a half-submerged, rotten little village called Hicksanoag, where he knew no one, except for a drug smuggler named Cairo Gemulus. Gemulus was not at all perturbed that the merchant caravan had gone north instead of south. He even let Scotty share his bucket of trod, tiny little crunchy fish he had bought from the villagers. Scotty would have preferred them cooked, or at any rate dead, but Gemulus blithely explained that dead cooked trod are deadly poison. If I were where I was supposed to be, Scotty pouted, putting one of the wriggling little creatures in his mouth, I could be having a roast, and some cheese, and a glass of wine. I sell moon sugar in the north and buy it in the south, he shrugged. You have to be more flexible, my friend. My only business is in Gideon, Scotty frowned. Well, you have a couple of choices, replied the smuggler. You could just stay here. Most villages in Argonia don't stay put for very long, and there's a good chance Hicks and Noag will drift right down to the gates of Gideon. Might take you a month or two, probably the easiest way. And that'd put me far behind schedule. Next option, you could join up with the caravan again, said Gemulus. They might be going in the right direction this time, and they might not get stuck in the mud, and they might not be all murdered by Naga highwaymen. Not tempting, Scotty frowned. Any other ideas? Ride the routes. The Underground Express, Gemulus grinned. Follow me. Scotty followed Gemulus out of the village, and into a copse of trees surrounded by veils of wispy moss. The smuggler kept his eye on the ground, poking at the viscous mud intermittently. Finally, he found a spot which triggered a mass of big oily bubbles to rise to the surface. Perfect, he said. Now, the important thing is not to panic. The express will take you due south. That's the wintertide migration. And you'll know you're near Gideon when you see a lot of red clay. Just don't panic. And when you see a mass of bubbles, that's a breathing hole you can use to get out. Scotty looked at Gemulus blankly. The man was talking perfect gibberish. What? Gemulus took Scotty by the shoulder, and positioning him on top of the mass of bubbles, you stand right here. Scotty sank quickly into the mud, staring at the smuggler, horror-struck. And remember to wait till you see the red clay, and then the next time you see bubbles, push up. The more Scotty wriggled to get free, the faster he sunk. The mud enveloped Scotty to his neck, and he continued staring, unable to articulate anything but a noise like oog. And don't panic at the idea you're being digested. You could live in a rootworm's belly for months. Scotty took one last panicked gasp of air and closed his eyes before he disappeared into the mud. The clerk felt a warmth he hadn't expected all around him. When he opened his eyes, he found that he was entirely surrounded by a translucent goo and was traveling rapidly forward, southward, gliding through the mud as if it were air, skipping along an intricate network of roots. Scotty felt confusion and euphoria in equal measures, madly rushing forward through an alien environment of darkness, spinning around and over the thick, fibrous tentacles of the trees. It was as if he were high in the sky at midnight, not deep beneath the swamp in the Underground Express. Looking up slightly at the massive root structure above, Scotty saw something wriggle past. An 8-foot-long, armless, legless, colorless, boneless, eyeless, nearly shapeless creature riding the roots. Something dark was inside of it, and as it came closer, Scotty could see it was an Argonian man. He waved, and the disgusting creature the Argonian was in flattened slightly and rushed onward. Gemulus's words began to reappear in Scotty's mind at this sight. The wintertide migration, airhole, you're being digested. These were the phrases that danced around, as if trying to find some place to live in a brain which was highly resistant to them coming in. But there was no other way to look at the situation. Scotty had gone from eating living fish to being eaten alive as a way of transport. He was in one of those worms. Scotty made an executive decision to faint. He awoke in stages, having a beautiful dream of being held in a woman's warm embrace. Smiling and opening his eyes, the reality of where he really was rushed over him. The creature was still rushing madly, blindly forward, gliding over roots, but it was no longer like a flight through the night sky. Now it was like the sky at sunrise, in pinks and reds. Scotty remembered Gemulus telling him to look for the red clay, and he would be near Gideon. The next thing he had to do was find the bubbles. There were no bubbles anywhere. Though the inside of the worm was still warm and comfortable, Scotty felt the weight of the earth all around him. Just don't panic, Gemulus had said, but it was one thing to hear that advice, and quite another to take it. He began to squirm, and the creature began to move faster at the increased pressure from within. Suddenly, Scotty saw it ahead of him, a slim spire of bubbles rising up through the mud from some underground stream, straight up through the roots to the surface above him. The moment the rootworm went through it, Scotty pushed with all of his might upward, bursting through the creature's thin skin. The bubbles pushed Scotty up quickly, and before he could blink, he was popping out of the red, slushy mud. 2 gray Argonians were standing under a nearby tree, holding a net. They looked in Scotty's direction with polite curiosity. In their net, Scotty noticed, were several squirming, furry, rat-like creatures. While he addressed them, another fell out of the tree. Though Scotty had not been educated in this practice, he recognized fishing when he saw it. "Excuse me, lads," Scotty said jovially. "I was wondering if you'd point me in the direction of Gideon." The Argonians introduced themselves as Drawing Flame and Furl of Fresh Leaves, and looked at one another, puzzling over the question. "Who you seek?" asked Furl of Fresh Leaves. "I believe his name is," said Scotty, trying to remember the contents of his long-gone file of Blackmarsh contacts in Gideon. "Archaean Rightfoot, Rock?" Drawing Flame nodded. "For 5 gold, show you way. Just east. His plantation east of Gideon. Very nice." Scotty thought that the best business he had heard of in 2 days, and handed Drawing Flames the 5 septims. The Argonians led Scotty onto a muddy ribbon of road that passed through the reeds, and soon revealed the bright blue expanse of Topal Bay far to the west. Scotty looked around at the magnificent walled estates, where bright crimson blossoms sprang forth from the very dirt of the walls, and surprised himself by thinking, "This is very pretty." The road ran parallel to a fast-moving stream, running eastward from Topal Bay. It was called the Uncobra River, he was told. It ran deep into Blackmarsh, to the very heart of the province. Peeking past the gates to the plantations east of Gideon, Scotty saw that few of the fields were tended. Most had rotten crops from harvest past still clinging to wilted vines, orchards of desolate, leafless trees. The Argonian serfs who worked the fields were thin, weak, near death, and more like haunting spirits than creatures of life and reason. 2 hours later, as the three continued their trudge east, the estates were still impressive at least from a distance. The road was still solid, if weedy, but Scotty was irritated, horrified by the field workers and the agricultural state, and no longer charitable towards the area. How much farther? Furl of Fresh Leaves and Drawing Flame looked at one another, as if that question was something that hadn't occurred to them. "Archaean is east?" Furl of Fresh Flames pondered. "Near or far?" Drawing Flame shrugged non-committally and said to Scotty, "For 5 gold, show you way. Just east. His plantation. Very nice." "You don't have any idea, do you?" Scotty cried. "Why couldn't you tell me that in the first place when I might have asked someone else?" Around the bend up ahead, there was the sound of hoofbeats, a horse coming closer. Scotty began to walk towards the sound to hail the rider, and didn't see Drawing Flame's taloned claws flash out and cast a spell at him. He felt it, though, a kiss of ice along his spine, the muscles along his arms and legs suddenly immobile as if wrapped in rigid steel. He was paralyzed. The great curse of paralysis, as the reader may be unfortunate enough to know, is that you can continue to see and think even though your body does not respond. The thought that went through Scotty's mind was, "Damn." For Drawing Flame and Furl of Fresh Leaves were, of course, like most simple day laborers in Blackmarsh, accomplished illusionists, and no friend of the Imperial. The Argonians shoved Decimus Scotty to the side of the road, just as the horse and rider came around the corner. He was an impressive figure, a nobleman in a flashing dark green cloak exactly the same color as his scaled skin, and a frilled hood that was part of his flesh and sat upon his head like a horned crown. "Greetings, brothers," the rider said to the two. "Greetings, Archaean Rightfoot Rock," they responded. And then Furl of Fresh Leaves added, "What is my lord's business on this fine day?" "No rest, no rest," the Archaean sighed regally. "One of my she-workers gave birth to twins. Twins! Fortunately, there's a good trader in town for those, and she didn't put up too much of a fuss. And then there's a fool of an Imperial from Lord Vannick's building commission I am supposed to meet with in Gideon. I'm sure he'll want the grand tour before he opens up the treasury for me. Such a lot of fuss." Drawing Flame and Furl of Fresh Leaves sympathized, and then, as Archaean Rightfoot Rock rode off, they went to look for their hostage. Unfortunately for them, gravity being the same in Blackmarsh as elsewhere in Tamriel, their hostage, Decimus Scotty, had continued to roll down from where they left him, and was, at that moment, in the Uncobra River, drowning. The Argonian Account, Book 4, by Wageen Yarth, Decimus Scotty's Continued Adventures in Blackmarsh, Volume 4. Decimus Scotty was drowning, and he didn't think much of it. He couldn't move his arms or his legs to swim because of the paralysis spell the Argonian peasant had lobbed at him, but he wasn't quite sinking. The Uncobra River was a crashing force of white water and currents that could carry along large rocks with ease, so Scotty tumbled head over heels, spinning, bumping, and bouncing along. He figured that soon enough he would be dead, and that would be better than being in Blackmarsh. He wasn't too panicked about it all when he felt his lungs fill with water and cold blackness fell upon him. For a while, and for the first time in some time, Decimus Scotty felt peace, blessed darkness. And then pain came to him, and he felt himself coughing, spewing water up from his belly and his lungs. A voice said, "Oh bother, he's alive, ain't he now?" Scotty wasn't quite sure if that were true, even when he opened his eyes and looked at the face above him. It was an Argonian, but unlike any he had seen anywhere. The face was thin and long like a thick lance. The scales were ruby red, brilliant in the sunlight. It blinked at it, its eyelids opening and closing in vertical slits. "I don't suppose we should eat you, should we now?" the creature smiled, and Scotty could tell from its teeth that it was no idle suggestion. "Thank you," said Scotty weakly. He craned his head slightly to find out who the "we" were, and discovered he was on the muddy bank of the still, sludgy river, surrounded by a group of Argonians with similarly needle-like faces and a whole rainbow of scales, bright greens and gem-like purples, blues and oranges. "Can you tell me, am I near, well, anywhere?" The ruby-colored Argonian laughed. "No, you're in the middle of everywhere and near nowhere." "Oh," said Scotty, who grasped the idea that space did not mean much in Blackmarsh. "And what are you?" "We are Agasaphs," the ruby-colored Argonian replied. "My name is Nomu." Scotty introduced himself. "I'm a senior clerk in Lord Vannick's building commission in the Imperial City. My job was to come here to try to fix the problems with commerce, but I've lost my agenda, haven't met with any of my contacts, the arcanes of Gideon." "Pompous, assimilated slaver kleptocrats," a small lemon-colored Agasaph murmured with some feeling. "And now I just want to go home." Nomu smiled, his long mouth arcing up like a host, happy to see an unwanted guest leave a party. "Shades will guide you." Shays, it seemed, was the bitter little yellow creature, and he was not at all pleased at the assignment. With surprising strength, he hoisted Scotty up, and for a moment the clerk was reminded of Gemulus dropping him into the bubbling muck that led to the Underground Express. Instead, Shays shoved Scotty towards a tiny little raft, razor-thin, that bobbed on the surface of the water. "This is how you travel?" "We don't have the broken wagons and dying horses of our brothers on the outside," Shays replied, rolling his tiny eyes. "We don't know better." The Argonian sat at the back of the craft and used his whip-like tail to propel and navigate the craft. They traveled quickly around swirling pools of slime that stank of centuries of putrefaction, past pinnacled mountains that seemed sturdy but suddenly fell apart at the slightest ripple in the still water, under bridges that might have once been metal but were now purely rust. "Everything in Tamriel flows down to Blackmarsh," Shays said. As they slid through the water, Shays explained to Scotty that the Agasaphs were one of the many Argonian tribes that lived in the interior of the province, near the Hist, finding little in the outside world worth seeing. He was fortunate to have been found by them. The Nagas, the toad-like Patru, and the winged Sarpa would have killed him on the spot. There were other creatures to be avoided too. Though there were few natural predators in Inner Blackmarsh, the scavengers that rooted in the garbage seldom shied away from a living meal. Hackwings circled overhead like the one Scotty had seen in the west. Shays fell silent and stopped the raft completely, waiting for something. Scotty looked in the direction Shays was watching, and saw nothing unusual in the filthy water. Then he realized that the pool of green slime in front of them was actually moving, and fairly quickly, from one bank to the other. It deposited small bones behind it as it oozed up into the reeds and disappeared. "Voriplasm," Shays explained, moving the boat forward again. "Big word. It'll strip you to the bone by the second syllable." Scotty, desirous to distract himself from the sights and smells that surrounded him, thought it was a good time to compliment his pilot on his excellent vocabulary. It was particularly impressive, given how far from civilization they were. The Argonians in the east did, in fact, speak so well. "They tried to erect a temple of Mara near here, in Umfolo, 20 years ago," Shays explained, and Scotty nodded, remembering reading about it in the files before they were lost. "They all perished quite dreadfully of swamp rot in the first month, but they left behind some excellent books." Scotty was going to inquire further when he saw something so huge, so horrifying, it made him stop, frozen. Half submerged in the water ahead was a mountain of spines, lying on 9-foot-long claws. White eyes stared blindly forward, and then suddenly the whole creature spasmed, lurched, the jaw of its mouth jutting out, exposing tusks clotted with gore. "Swamp Leviathan," Shays whispered, impressed. "Very, very dangerous." Scotty gasped, wondering why the Agasaph was so calm, and more, why he was continuing to steer the raft forward towards the beast. Of all the creatures in the world, the rats are sometimes the worst, said Shays, and Scotty noticed that the huge creature was only a husk. Its movement was from the hundreds of rats that had burrowed into it, rapidly eating their way from the inside out, bursting from the skin in spots. They are indeed, Scotty said, and his mind went back to the Blackmarsh files, buried deep in the mud, and 4 decades of Imperial work in Blackmarsh. The two continued westward through the heart of Blackmarsh. Shays showed Scotty the vast, complicated ruins of Kothringi capitals, fields of ferns and flowered grasses, quiet streams under canopies of blue moss, and the most astonishing sight of Scotty's life, the great forest of full-grown hiss trees. They never saw a living soul until they arrived at the edge of the Imperial Commerce Road, just east of Slough Point, where Malik, Scotty's Redguard guide, was patiently waiting. I was going to give you 2 more minutes, the Redguard scowled, dropping the last of his food onto the pile at his feet. No more, sir. The sun was shining bright when Decimus Scotty rode into the Imperial City, and as it caught the morning dew, it lent a glisten to every building, as if they had been newly polished for his arrival. It astonished him how clean the city was, and how few beggars there were. The protracted edifice of Lord Vannick's building commission was the same as it had always been, but still, the very sight of it seemed exotic and strange. It was not covered in mud. The people within actually, generally, worked. Lord Vannick himself, though singularly squat and squinty, seemed immaculate, not only relatively clean of dirt and scabs, but also relatively uncorrupt. Scotty couldn't help but stare at him when he first caught sight of his boss. Vannick stared right back. You're a sight, the little fellow frowned. Did your horse drag you to Blackmarsh and back? I would say go home and fix yourself, but there are a dozen people here to see you. I hope you have solutions for them. It was no exaggeration. Nearly 20 of Cyrodiil's most powerful and wealthiest people were waiting for him. Scotty was given an office even larger than Lord Vannick's, and he met with each. First among the commission's clients were 5 independent traders, blustering and loaded with gold, demanding to know what Scotty intended to do about improving the trade routes. Scotty summarized for them the conditions of the main roads, the state of the merchants' caravans, the sunken bridges, and all the other impediments between the frontier and the marketplace. They told him to have everything replaced and repaired, and gave him the gold necessary to do it. Within 3 months, the bridge at Slough Point had disappeared into the muck. The great caravan had collapsed into decrepitude, and the main road from Gideon had been utterly swallowed up by the swamp water. The Argonians began once again to use the old ways, their personal rafts and sometimes the underground express, to transport the grain in small quantities. It took a third of the time, 2 weeks, to arrive in Cyrodiil, none of it rotten. The Archbishop of Mera was the next client Scotty met with, a kind-hearted man, horrified by the tales of Argonian mothers selling their children into slavery. He pointedly asked Scotty if it were still true. Sadly, yes, Scotty replied, and the Archbishop showered him with septums, telling the clerk that food must be brought to the province to ease their suffering, and the schools must be improved so they could learn to help themselves. Within 5 months, the last book had been stolen from the deserted Marin monastery in Umfalo. As the Arcanes went bankrupt, their slaves returned to his parents' tiny farms. The backwater Argonians found that they could grow enough to feed their families, provided they had enough hard workers in their enclave, and the buyer's market for slaves sharply declined. Ambassador Sliixith, concerned about the rising crime in northern Blackmarsh, brought with him the contributions of many other expatriate Argonians like himself. They wanted more Imperial guards on the border at Slough Point, more magically lit lanterns posted along the main roads at regular intervals, more patrol stations, and more schools built to allow young Argonians to better themselves and not turn to crime. Within 6 months, there were no more Nagas roaming the roads, as there were no more merchants traveling them to rob. The thugs returned to the fetid inner swamp, where they felt much happier, their constitutions enriched by the rot and pestilence that they loved. Sliixith and his constituency were so pleased by the crime rate dropping, they brought even more gold to Decimus Scotty, telling him to keep up the good work. Blackmarsh simply was, is, and always shall be unable to sustain a large-scale cash crop plantation economy. The Argonians, and anyone else, the whole of Tamriel, could live in Blackmarsh on subsistence farming, just raising what they needed. That was not sad, Scotty thought. That was hopeful. Scotty's solution to each of their dilemmas had been the same. 10% of the gold they gave him went to Lord Vannick's building commission. The rest, Scotty kept for himself and did exactly nothing about the requests. Within a year, Decimus Scotty had embezzled enough to retire very comfortably, and Blackmarsh was better off than it had been in 40 years. Glories and Laments by Alexander Hetrard. The glories of the Eyelid city Seatatar, and laments over the collapse of the Eyelid civilization. Having arrived at Gotterford's Priory, halfway on the Gold Road between Skingrad and the Imperial City, I resolved to make a side trip to view the magnificent ruins of Seatatar, or Shadow of the Fatherwoods, in the ancient Eyelid tongue. After many hours of difficult travel through tangled hawthorn hells and Limbalosts, I was suddenly struck dumb by the aspect of 5 pure white columns rising from a jade-green mound of vines to perfect V-shaped arches and graceful capitals towers above the verdant forest growth. This spectacle caused me to meditate on the lost glories of the past and the melancholy fate of high civilizations, now poking like splintered shards of bone in the green-grown tumulus of time-swept obscurity. Within the forest tangle, I discovered an entrance leading down into the central dome of a great underground edifice once dedicated to Magnus, the god of sight, light, and insight. Dimly lit by the faded power of its magical pools, the shrouded white walls of the enclosure shimmered with a cold blue light. The marble benches of the central plaza faced out across the surrounding waters to tall columns and sharp arches supporting the high dome. From the central island, stately bridges spanned the still pools to narrow walkways behind the columns, with broad, vaulted avenues and limpid canals leading away through ever-deepening gloom into darkness. Reflected in the pools were the tumbled columns, collapsed walls, and riotous root and vine growth thriving in the dark half-light of the magical fountains. The ancient Eyelids recognized not the 4 elements of modern natural philosophy, earth, water, air, and fire, but the 4 elements of high elf religion, earth, water, air, and light. The Eyelids considered fire to be but a weak and corrupt form of light, which Eyelid philosophers identified with primary magical principles. Thus, their ancient subterranean temples and sanctuaries were lit by lamps, globes, pools, and fountains of purest magic. It was by these ancient, faded, but still active magics that I knelt and contemplated the departed glories of the long-dead Eyelid architects. Gazing through the glass-smooth reflections of the surrounding pools, I could see, deep below, the slow pulse, the waxing and waning of the Welkin stones. The chiefest peril of these ruins to the explorer are the cunning and deadly mechanisms devised by the Eyelids to torment and confound those who would invade their underground sanctuaries. What irony, after these many years, these devices should still stand vigilant against those who would admire the works of the Eyelids. For it is clear, these devices were crafted in vain. They did not secure the Eyelids against their true enemies, which were not the slaves who revolted and overthrew their cruel masters, nor were they the savage beast people who learned the crafts of war and magic from their Eyelid masters. No, it was the arrogant pride of their achievements, their smug self-assurance that their empire would last forever, that doomed them to fail and fade into obscurity.
The Book of Dawn and Dusk. This book is a collection of sayings and aphorisms attributed variously to the tribunals and to their saints and servants. Many of these sayings have become common cliches of everyday life in Morrowind. Following selections of slogans will illustrate many of the simplest notions of the tribunal faithful. Speak none but good of the gods. We can have no opinions about truth. Rumors flow from the house of troubles. Count only the happy hours. No child has a sinner's heart. Let faith be your only law. Fear of the fool is beginning of wisdom. Amsivi in every hour. Walk always in the presence of your lords. Comfort is given, justice is taken. Learn by serving. From the heart, the light. From the head, the law. Blessed Amsivi, mercy, mastery, mystery. Forge a keen faith in the crucible of suffering. Engrave upon thy eye the image of injustice. Death does not diminish, the ghost gilds with glory. Faith conquers all, yet let us yield to faith. Better to suffer a wrong than to do one. The heavens are in their glory, applaud. Folly secures its power to harm, though forbidden to some, not to you. The Ebon Arm by Wittenroll. The ground shakes. The great armies continue to wage their unrelenting battle. The battlefield is red. The rivers flow crimson. The sky reflects a deep pink. In the distance, lightning flashes and thunder sounds. 2 huge ravens begin circling the field. Their blackness is vibrant against the various shades of red in this vista of death and suffering. The bright lashes of light and rumbling begin to increase. The redness surrounding the battlefield begins giving way to a golden glow from the east, almost like a summer setting sun. From the false sunset, a massive golden stallion and single rider approach. All becomes suddenly still on the field of battle, as both sides recognize Raymond Ebenarm, god of war, and the companion and protector of all warriors, also known as the Black Knight, and his mighty steed, Warmaster. He rides into the middle of the blood-soaked field and dismounts. He is a very imposing figure. His very tall and heavily muscled body is encased in ebony armor. His ebony helmet does not hide the flowing, reddish-blonde hair and beard which appear almost as shimmering gold, nor does it shield the steel-blue eyes that seem to pierce all they fall upon. In his left hand he carries a massive ebony tower shield on which is emblazoned a fiery red rose. As he raises his right arm, all see an arm and a magnificent ebony blade which are extensions of each other. The fused arm and sword are a result and symbol of the wounds suffered by this god during titanic battles in the youth of this world. The ravens come to rest on his shoulders, and as the point of the ebony blade seems to touch the sky, lightning flashes, thunder roars. Then total quiet descends and a shudder rolls through both armies. The leaders of both armies approach Raymond Ebenarm and kneel. In turn, they tell their reasons for this war. Each asks for the favor of the Black Knight for their cause. Raymond Ebenarm listens, but there is no acknowledgement that he has chosen to favor one side or the other in this fight. However, each of the leaders has heard the other state his position. And each now knows that this war is baseless. They embrace and turn to their armies, instruct their forces to bury their dead, tend their wounded, and return to their homes. Raymond Ebenarm mounts his great golden stallion, Warmaster, and again raises the ebony blade skyward and extends the huge rose-emblazoned ebony shield to both armies. A massive chorus of cheers rises from the armies. The ravens again take to the air. Lightning and thunder follow him as he rides into the sunset, followed by the 2 birds. The armies do as they have been bidden. They care for their wounded and bury their dead. As they retreat toward their home, each warrior is sure that the great god Raymond Ebenarm, the Black Knight, has responded to their individual prayers for intervention. Each side has won, neither has lost. As the armies depart the field, the rivers begin to run clear, and a single red rose begins to bloom near the grave of a fallen hero.
I swear, those lips are more addictive than skooma, and sweeter than moon sugar. I want to taste them again. You're a bit pale. Need a drink? Come on, take a few sips for me, my love. So, what are we doing tonight?
Stay close.
Huh?
Yes?
Let's fucking go.
Leave here alive. Don't let me in. Stand still.
I'm at worse.
Light them up, please.
You don't like it? Well then, fuck off!
Come on.
Hey, it feels like we've done this dance before. I shield you from the scratches and you heal up my scratches. Drugs to be spilt here will be your own.
I cannot best you. Are you prepared to die?
Victorious once again.
Vanos' journal. 3rd mid-year 4E201. The voice of Merus Dagon permeates my dreams. At first it was a whisper, but has become a roar inside my skull. The seeds of strife and violence plague this land, the soil enriched by the blood of battle. Tamriel will soon be ripe again for the taking, for my vengeance is at hand, the voice says to me. I must heed his voice. What must I do, my lord? 12th mid-year 4E200. I have spent countless hours, countless days in prayer to Dagon, and have heard nothing. I finally took rest and had another dream. Dreams of fire, of smoke, heat upon heat. I was descending into a cavern, further and further down. The heat began to cook and blister my skin. But I kept moving, ever downward. Fire and smoke, heat and rock. And then I saw it. The very mouth of Dagon, an Oblivion Gate. With a blinding flash, I then began to have visions of Akatosh, visions of dragons. What could be the meaning of this? I awoke covered in sweat and with a deep sense of purpose. I feel drawn eastward. I must heed the call. 15th sun's height, 4E200. Dagon's voices led me to a cavern deep within the Velothi Mountains. His worshippers used to gather here. I feel their presence. I feel his power. An Oblivion Gate is buried here. I can feel it. It is my destiny to reach it. I will spend night and day with pickaxe in hand until it is free from this prison of stone. 6th Hearthfire 4E200. For nearly 2 months I have toiled, digging deeper and deeper, stopping only to rest. Stone by stone, inching ever closer to my destiny, ever closer to the fires of oblivion. Others have begun to heed Dagon's call and have found their way here, to me, to our Lord. We are the high priests of the new order, chosen few who are attuned to his will. As we traverse deeper, the remnants of our ancient mythic dawn temple are revealed like diamond from the rock. Priest Vitus was the first to discover this gate's stone. My ecstasy was short-lived, however, when I found, like every other gate, it had been destroyed. Still, I could feel its power like heat against my skin. Many other pieces like this are scattered throughout the lands of Skyrim, buried deep, lost to time. We shall find them. We shall open the jaws of oblivion once again. 4th Morning Star 4E201. Visions of dragons cloud my dreams once more. Images of Martin's Septum and Akatosh that make my blood burn with anger and vengeance. Black wings unfurling against a red sky. I do not yet understand the meaning of these visions, but Dagon's hatred has become a burning coal in the pit of my stomach, driving me ever forward. 21st Second Seed 4E201. Over the last several months we have searched the deep reaches of Skyrim, and have retrieved enough remnants of the various shattered Oblivion Gates to make one whole again. Its very presence inspires power, awe, and reverence. A pact must now be made. Dagon requires that each of us offer a personal sacrifice, a blood offering to prove our dedication. With each soul cast into the fires of oblivion, his power grows. The liminal barrier is weak here, and the turmoil and conflict boiling in the lands only weakens it further. I must now summon a Dremora Lord to acquire a sigil stone and find a way to open the gate. 10th Sun's Height 4E201. I have performed the rites as dictated in liminal bridges and successfully penetrated the barrier into the realm of oblivion, but my attempts to use the gate as a vessel of transliminal attunement have failed. The portal to oblivion is thin and temporary, as one might expect. I have smelled the sweet sulfur of the Deadlands, but only for fleeting moments of time. I have studied all there is to know of the Mysterium Xarxes. I have been to Dawnstar on countless occasions to observe its last remaining page, yet a necessary piece has remained a mystery. As I pray to Dagon for guidance and confer with his Dremora, I understand now that a sigil stone is simply not powerful enough on its own. Something stronger must be required to open the gate. But what kind of artifact could hold such power? I have dispatched the most loyal of my disciples to all corners of Tamriel to search for any artifact or source of power worthy of becoming the key to oblivion. I must remain patient and trust Dagon's will. 20th Sun's Height 4E201. I have received word from my scouts that a great Welkin stone may be hidden within Rielle, an ancient Iliad ruin. Could this be the source of power needed to open the gate? It very well may be. How delicious the irony. An object once used against Dagon becoming the very thing that unleashes his power back into the mortal realm. My scouts are working diligently to uncover any further information they can, and as I continue to pray to Dagon for guidance, his voice says to me, "Patience. All shall be revealed in time." Second last seed 4E201. Curse the vigil of Stendar. They have blocked the Pale Pass through the Gerald Mountains, making access to Rielle an impossibility. We cannot risk exposing our plans. We must find another way. If we cannot make our way to Cyrodiil by road, we will do so by force directly through the mountains. We have done it once to get to this sacred place, and we shall do it again. I have dispatched a team to begin excavation immediately. 14th last seed 4E201. Fevered visions haunt my dreams once more, and as the time draws near, I now understand what must be done. The dragon-born prophecy foretells a chosen one will come forth, their blood and soul blessed by Akatosh himself. The Dovahkiin. The time wound will open, and Alduin, the World Eater, shall also return. Though both are fragments of Akatosh's soul, these two will wage war against one another, and as children of Akatosh, they will reap the vengeance of Mehrunes Dagon. But pain and suffering nor death will satisfy. Only the ultimate betrayal will suffice. To open the Oblivion Gate, a ritual of the highest order must be carefully designed. An artifact of untold power must be corrupted, a great sacrifice made, and above all, the Dragonborn must become the unwitting instrument of Dagon's will. I will become the sacrifice, the final step. And as the Dovahkiin takes my life with blade in one hand and great welkin stone in the other, they will complete the ritual and become the very key to opening the gate. This ultimate betrayal will shatter the liminal barrier, opening the Oblivion Gate and giving Dagon a foothold into the mortal realm where he rebuilds his armies. It is a divine plan beyond anything I could have comprehended. The world will be bathed in the fires of oblivion, and the blood of mortals will be on the hands of Akatosh. None can be made aware of this plan. It is too fragile, too perfect. 17th last seed 4E201. It has begun. Alduin has returned. Scorvild has been missing for several days. After witnessing his brother being sacrificed, his spirit broke, and he deserted the order just as I planned. He will seek out the Dragonborn for help, and once his role has been fulfilled, he will be slaughtered. The Dragonborn, in their arrogance, will continue to be the embodiment of ambition, much to Dagon's pleasure. They will no doubt seek to obtain the great welkin stone. They will then return to me, and when they do, the final act of the ritual will begin. Priestess Enakane has been taken captive by the Vigil of Stendar, but she too serves a greater purpose. Her spirit will not break, but she will lead the Vigil where they need to be to aid the Dragonborn. Where they will utterly fail, the Dovahkiin will succeed. Their success will be short-lived. The sigil stone has been destroyed, ensuring the gate will remain open. Moreover, 2 of Dagon's Dromora Valkynes, Katanas, and Methats are waiting in the Deadlands to lead the assault. They are the heralds of the coming siege, and through their works we will unleash a scourge of torment upon our Lord's enemies. The dawn is breaking.
fight! These things. Scum of Oblivion. Fucking cunt. I do what I do, and if you don't like it... Well done. I'll just be back here enjoying the view.
I smell weakness. There you are, weakling. You are weak, mortal.
Shit. Should loot up and move out. Dead bodies always bring scavengers of the 2- and 4-legged kind. Fantastic. Come here and do your worst. Can't decide if I get shit scared when you're in a fight, or I find it a bit thrilling to watch. Ha! Here we go.
Are you prepared for your death?
I do what I do. You don't like it, then I'm tough.
The challenger is near.
Hey, it feels like we've done this dance before. I shield you from the scratches and you heal up my scratches. Fuck! Die already!
Is someone there?
Never should have come here! Yes! What's your bet, huh?
Huh?
Now you're mine.
Thought I heard something.
Lucky.
die. This is the end for you. Think you can take me? I've had enough of you.
Walk always in the light, or we will drag you to it.
You pick a bad...
I'll never do it myself. Jail. Now that's power. Bet they got that secret. What's that?
Is someone there?
Oh, what the gods, no!
Is it now? Fight, coward! I am pretty awesome.
No need to worry. Any cut purse tries to snatch away your coin, I'll take their hand myself for a trophy.
Public notice. Warning, stay out of the Ratway. It has come to our attention that some misguided citizens have been venturing into the Ratway late at night. To complicate matters, others have seen fit to spread rumors of their disappearance, stirring up talk of ghosts and phantoms haunting the sewers. We would remind you that the Ratway is not a safe place for commoners, and any talk of ghosts is nothing more than tavern gossip. We will investigate the matter shortly, but in the meantime, take heed and do not enter the Ratway. The Rift and Guard.
I don't know, Droff. They'd skin us alive if they knew we were doing this.
Why are you always acting like such a big baby? I've gotten us this far.
This far? We're living in a sewer. You said we'd have a house as big as the Blackbriars by now.
You worry about bashing people's heads in. I'll worry about the guild, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to check the entrance to the Ratway. Be right back.
Remember, hit the one in the middle. Stand still. Found you.
There's something new. Now let's do it. How about we catch your breath? Have a sip of water, and maybe I can steal a victory kiss or two, eh?
Pickpocket's journal. I ain't been having no luck at all lifting gold off them rich merchants in the market, and those Thieves Guild swits don't want me. Said I'm too clumsy. I'm running out of food and skooma. May need to start killing some of the skeevers down here for meat. One of the skooma dealers at the docks told me he knew a guy from Morrowind who trained a Nyx hound to distract his marks. Helped him steal a heaping pile of gold, he said. Don't know if I believe a word of it, but what else am I going to do? Might as well give it a try. Too bad there ain't any Nyx hounds around here. Plenty of skeevers, though. I'm going to need to catch some anyway for food. Might as well have a go at training one first. Solanus' confession. 7th of the Morning Star 4E171. My son, I do not have long for this world, but before the winter night embraces me, I would confess a great regret that has burdened my heart for many years. Long ago, my brethren and I were commissioned to hunt down and ensnare a dark and powerful renegade captain, a man who, once a proud soldier, had become corrupted by a powerful artifact and turned to great darkness of deed. We fulfilled our commission, but not without great cost, for I alone managed to survive the encounter. But in the many years that have followed this venture, I have often wondered if our deed of ensnaring him was equally evil. For with our combined enchantments we have bound him to an eternity of misery, for we bound him to the guardianship of the very thing that drove him insane, the artifact. A powerful weapon that now, despite his yearning for it, he cannot yield while he lives. It is a cruel fate for a once great man, for he was just that until grief and anger laid him bare to such utter corruption and malice. That story is a sad tale indeed. But now, these many years on, my heart sees the truth, and I would undo that which was done and free him from his misery. But alas, it is too late for me to take on such a quest. Therefore I pray that you, my son, will do this task in my stead. I beg you, as a father's last wish, seek him out and set him free. Your father, Solanus.
Whoa, it bloody stinks in here.
Golden Hills Plantation.
Solanus' Journal, Volume 3. 22nd of Morning Star, 4E131. What was done cannot be undone. We did what we set out to do, and our commission was fulfilled, but at such a horrid cost for all of us. Together we endeavored to lay a trap here with the aid of the inhabitant smugglers and ensnare him. Knowing something of his past, we brought with us the remains of his dear departed wife, hoping that this alone would lure him into our grasp. Our plan worked, but something went horribly wrong. Perhaps it was a mishap of our magic, or the deeper magic of the weapon he wielded. I know not which with any certainty. All I know is that for some reason, our enchantment caused his being to divide, and we suddenly found ourselves caught in a battle with 3 where there had once been 1. But with great effort we managed to separate and contain these divisions within the chamber of this vault. But this was a small victory, if any at all, for I have yet to determine the true cost of it. I know not how many of my guild survived the deed, for I cannot break the seals to these doors without undoing all that we have achieved. All I can do is await their return and pray. There is at least some comfort in knowing that our foe can no longer wield his blade, and he and the magical shield are one. He is bound to it. He is now both its prisoner and its guardian. 23rd of Morningstar 4E131. Alas, our casualties were too high. For although we've trapped him here in this vault, it is now clear to me that only I and one other may live to tell this tale. However, there is no time to grieve the loss of our guild, for we must seal this place shut and report to the council at once. They must be informed of what has happened here. My colleague is severely wounded, but hopefully he has strength yet to assist me, for we must not fail. Torn note. In the shade of Elathi, where rivers run black, shore stones at our feet, white shore at our back, wind helm on our shoulders beyond the fair night, before the dawn rises, red scars bleed the light. Torn smuggler's note. I can't resist him. Those eyes. Those terrible eyes. So full of anger, fear, and remorse. The only escape is death.
Fan-fucking-tastic. Fuck right off.
Ferric's note. I met Sir Shelgatherian on a Morndus outside the docks in the rain. Should have taken it as a sign. We'd done business before, she and I, smuggling black soul gems, corpses, the kind of dark and dishonest things that would make grown men sleep in pairs. But this was different. This was big. The sword she gave me was like nothing I'd ever seen. Teeth like a slaughterfish, and a blood-red gem in the center. I said it must have been one of a kind. That's when she smiled and told me there was another. My job was to swap them. We sealed the venture with a coin, of which more was promised later. The mage told me I'd be contacted in a week. A group of her associates would pay us to use the hideout to kill some captain, after which I'd make the switch. She told me to keep this a secret from the mages, which made me pause, but the details didn't matter much to me. All I wanted to know was the number on the ledger. It was enough. Months later, and the deal had turned rotten. Mages underestimated their own magic, and we, our greed, now we're all paying the price for our stupidity. Some tried to fight their way out, but the bastard won't die. I'm beginning to think he can't. On top of that, every man that he's felled has risen to fight beside him, making him that much harder to kill. I guess I have no one to blame but myself. I should have trusted my gut from the start. Mage jobs always have a bad stink on them, but this one smelled especially foul. But I wanted that gold so badly, I convinced myself and the men it was moon sugar. Funny thing is, I don't even have bloodthirst anymore. I lost it at the pits at Falder's Tooth, thinking I could just kill the mages and Gatherian once I got my hands on the other one. And when the spell went bad, the guild sealed the captain in these chambers and us along with him. Now all I have left is a festering wound, an empty stomach, and the mage's coin to show for it. Chances are this coin is probably the only thing that will make it out of here, but oh, could it tell you a story? Because this coin has bought a lot of lives. It's sold a lot of dreams and spilled a lot of blood. I know now the coin is cursed, yet for some reason I can't let it go. Guild Mage's scribble. We are doomed. There is no hope.
Hello again. Well, moving on.
Guild Mage's missive. We have tried to contain him or die trying. She's the key to everything, for her death defined him and drove him insane. Perhaps we can use her remains to summon her spirit and calm him.
You've got nothing on the dragon.
This can't be good. The way you look after a fight, all wild and so fucking alive. Gods, I can kiss you. Bloody hell.
What is that? Damn it!
Oi, freak!
Let's see what else is around here.
just stepped in something.
Huh. I suppose I can work with your face. After all, the sculptor cannot always choose the finest clay.
We've all heard that one before.
You must be the face sculptor I've heard about.
Yes, I once practiced my art in the salons and manors of Tamriel's great and good. Now the scum of Skyrim are my only clients. But no matter, the greatest artists are never recognized in their own time. So, are you here as a client? Shall I remake your face?
Are you sure you know what you're doing?
I've not always been a ragged beggar. I learned my art from the masters of the art of flesh sculpture. I studied with the faculty of chirurgeons in Cloudrest. I walked with the hollow-faced men of Notahogra for 3 years. I count the nobility of both the Empire and the Dominion among my clients. And yet, I have fallen so low that I must justify myself to a wanderer in the sewers of this backwater of the world. Until next time.
Well, well. Colour me impressed, lass. I wasn't certain I'd ever see... Well, well. Colour me impressed, lass. I wasn't certain I'd ever see you again.
Getting here was easy.
Reliable and headstrong? You're turning out to be quite the prize. So, now that I've whetted your appetite with our little scheme at the market, how about handling a few deadbeats for me?
Deadbeats, what did they do?
They owe our organization some serious coin, and they've decided not to pay. I want you to explain to them the error of their ways.
Sounds good. Who are they?
Kirava, Bersi Honeyhand, and Helga. Do this right, and I can promise you a permanent place in our organization.
How did you want me to handle it?
Honestly, the debt is secondary here. What's more important is that you get the message across that we aren't to be ignored. A word of warning, though. I don't want any of them killed. Bad for business.
Consider it done.
Good. If you need any details on your marks, I'll be here. Now get going.
What's Helga's story?
Helga is a devout follower of Dibella and dotes over the statue to the divine that she keeps at the bunkhouse. Use it as leverage, and she'll cave.
Any tips about Kirava?
Kirava's stubborn, but she's got a soft spot for family. Talk to Talon Jay at the Bee and Barb, and see if you can get something out of him. They're well acquainted, if you catch my meaning.
Any help with Bersi?
He's as pig-headed a man as you'll ever find. The key is that ugly dwarven urn in his shop. Smash that thing to bits and he'll change his attitude.
I'm looking for an old guy, probably hiding out in the Ratway.
Yeah, I bet I know your guy. He's hiding out in the Ratway Warrens, paying us good coin for nobody to know about it. I'll be here when you're done.
I'm busy. Don't you have something to do?
Stay out of trouble, or there's gonna be trouble.
I'm busy. Don't you have something to do? You need advice?
You'd better have coin to pay for your drinks. There's no handouts here.
That old guy hiding out down here. Where does he live?
He's holed up in the Ratway Warrens. Be careful. You're not the only one looking for him.
I'm looking to make a home here in the Ratways.
Splendid. There's a house available right now.
I'll take it.
Wonderful. Here is the key to your new home. Mm-hmm.
Last person who made trouble for Beckel ended up with a smashed head.
I already fucking hate it.
Go away, if you know what's good for you.
Your lips look cold. Should I warm them up a bit? Hello, love.
About surviving out here.
Aye.
I'm exhausted.
Aye, we ought to make camp.
Could you set up a campsite?
Sure thing. As you wish.
Nothing compares to the white.
How are you, sweetheart?
All right.
A warning. Delvin, master of sneaking, huh? If I ever catch you trying to sneak a peek at me while I'm bathing in the lake again, I'll cut off your most valuable asset. Vex.
Give Me a Chance by Delvin Mallory. Vex, give an old man a chance, why don't you? I know I may have a few years under my belt, but that doesn't mean we can't have some fun. Believe me, I can show you a thing or two. Quit playing hard to get. I saw how you blushed when Dirge started reading from the lusty Argonian maid. You're a firebrand, we all know it. Take me up on my offer, and stop playing the tough girl. We all know the toughest ones are the softest on the inside. Delvin.
Timely offer by Way about a job for the Thieves Guild. Delvin, I have a full score of glass arrows coming in. If you want a piece, I'll sell them to you for my cost. I need to keep the merchandise moving or else that bitch might catch on to our operation. If you want them, they'll be stashed under the docks in the usual place. I'll check back with you in a week. Way.
Herbane's Bestiary by Herbane. Automatons. Nines fight fire. The dwarfs have been extinct for many an age, and perhaps for the best. To see men and women the size of large children, or with birds, would be a most disturbing sight. Still, whatever wrath the dwarves brought from the gods that consumed an entire civilization surely must have been an awe-inspiring thing to witness. The remnants of the civilization lie buried in the hearts of mountains. Scholars and thieves the world over descend in the skeletal remains of dwarven cities like vultures, to scrape clean the bones of the past, old knowledge waiting to be exhumed, treasure to be discovered. But many men lay murdered in those halls of the damned, because those dwarven ruins do not release their treasures without a fight. My kin would tell the stories long ago, when I was just a child, about how adept the dwarves were at building machines. They would say that before our times dwarves harnessed the power of the earth, wielded the fire and hammers to shape steel and bronze with a mechanical brilliance that breathed fire into these now ancient constructs of metal and magic. In the dark halls and chambers, amid the ceaseless droning of grinding gears and venting steam, they lie in wait to confound or destroy would-be plunderers of the dwarven sanctums. As the grim watchmen of the last vestiges of the culture from a dead race, I descended into the humid darkness of Mzuft. The slow hiss of steam, creaking of metal, and the rattle of old gears powering an empty city would unnerve most men. I could hear things in the darkness, skittering across the floor just out of sight, and as I stepped over the bodies of plunderers or scholars who had not made it far, I knew it was not rats wandering these halls. Small mechanical spiders sat upon me with rapid movement, and machines spurted from the walls and uncurled from spheres into contraptions that rolled on top of gears for legs and crossbows for arms. I could not help but marvel at these single-purpose machines built for the murder of men. My sword and my shield are my strength, and I am undeterred by such things because I had heard of greater things that roam these depths. And indeed something else in these chambers stirred, and it echoed with massive weight. As it lumbered closer, its feet struck the ground as if walking on massive pistons, and as it loomed out of darkness I could see it clear for the first time. Axe for one hand, hammer for the other, as tall as 5 men, made of dull bronze with a face molded in the image of its masters. A steam centurion. The stories were true. These were the guardians of the greatest dwarven treasures. We fought, and the dwarves must truly be extinct, because our battle was surely booming enough to wake the dead. It came at me with hammer and axe, inhuman strength and great fortitude, and a purpose of nothing but murder. I dodged as it crushed the stone around me with futile strikes, and I thrust and slashed at it with my blade and took every opening afforded as we shook the halls with violence. I refused to be undone by a machine. Where the average man would be long dead, I stood over the husk of this dead automaton, its steam escaping like a final gasp. I could have taken the dwarven artifacts and metal, but I left them there for others. For I would not hex my journey with the possessions of dead men, and maybe that is where countless others go wrong. I will continue my journey across the lands, and perhaps one day Herbane will meet a worthy challenge, for I have yet to see what would make me tremble.
Lycanthropic Legends of Skyrim by Lentulus Inventius, Order of the Horn, a recounting of the unwillingness of Skyrim's inhabitants to share stories of lycanthropy. I had heard the same rumors as everyone else, that the province of Skyrim was awash in various forms of lycanthropy. I had studied werewolves for some time, and was keen to see if these rumors of werebears were actually substantiated. I elected to pursue these studies in the warmer summer months in deference to my fragile constitution. One quickly finds that the common villagers are of practically no use in this land, whereas in Cyrodiil, even the youngest child can tell you the true fauna that inhabit its environs. Here I find alleged wise men recounting tales of unicorns and flying horses directly alongside their stories of werebears, so I don't put any stock in the rumors. They certainly have their traditions for warding off werebears, certain plants and ceremonies, but nobody can attest to having ever seen one firsthand, much less possess any sort of artifact. Everyone has a cousin or a friend who saw one once, but when pressed, these stories fall apart. I don't wish to completely discount these stories, but I also must conclude that they may have spun out of some wild retelling of a particularly vicious but mundane bear. Legends can take a life of their own, particularly where there are grains of truth, as here we have the very real threat of werewolves. I worry that by spreading stories of a potentially false, or at least rare beast, people may be discounting the threat the real beast poses. But if Skyrim's people choose to lead a backwards life, shrieking at shadows and clouds, I will not stop them. The werewolves of this land are a curious sort, at least the legends of them. Given the Nord flair for bravado, I had expected to see werewolf pelts lining the walls in the cities, werewolf heads on pikes, that sort of gaudy show. Instead, few people in civilized society ever mentioned them, and my questions were usually met with nervous stares. Thinking that perhaps the common folk were simply more cowardly than I had been led to believe by my Nordic acquaintances in Cyrodiil, I sought out those known for actual bravery. The supposedly fearless warrior band of Whiterun, the Companions, lost all color when I broached the subject, and asked me to leave. I had thought better of them, and was disappointed at how quickly brave men and women can be intimidated by stories. Pressing into the wilderness, away from any sort of settlement, I would often find hunters, willing to recount stories of their kills. It was finally through one of them, a certain Karsten Hammerback, that I heard my first, and unfortunately only, verifiable stories of werewolves in the province, accompanied by pelts and claws to prove the killing. Just as I was thrilling to find some actual evidence of the local beasts, he got a wild, conspiratorial look in his eyes and began spinning tales of some band of werewolf hunters and their exploits in hunting down the creatures. I left him to mop his drool and continued my journeys. In the end, I regret that my trip to Skyrim did not prove more productive. If it is indeed true that their breeds of lycanthropes are distinct from and more powerful than our local ones, they could prove to be powerful allies in our conflict against the influx of werevultures in Valenwood. If they had grown as great and terrible as my friend Galen asserts, they could soon threaten the interior of Tamriel. When the summer next crests, I plan to travel there for a better accounting of the winged cretins, so that I may make more fitting report to the council. Magic from the Sky by Irlav Yarol. Treatise concerning Eylead Wells, Welkin Stones, and Varla Stones. The ancient Eyleads believed that Nirn was composed of 4 basic elements: earth, water, air, and light. And of these 4 elements, they believed the most sublime form of light was starlight. The stars are our links to the plane of Aetherius, the source of all magical power, and therefore light from the stars is the most potent and exalted form of all magical powers. From time to time, fragments of Aetherius fall from the heavens. The people know these fragments as shooting stars, and from time to time, such ethereal fragments are found on Nirn. The most common varieties are known as meteoric iron. This metal is prized by armorers and enchanters for its properties in the forging of enchanted weapons and armors. This meteoric iron is also the primary component in Eylead Wells, ancient enchanted artifacts found throughout Cyrodiil. Another, rarer form of ethereal fragment is called meteoric glass. It is from such fragments that other rare Eylead enchanted artifacts are crafted: Welkin stones and Varla stones. Eylead wells are scattered across Cyrodiil's landscape. Their sitting is a mystery. They are not associated with any known Eylead cities or settlements. It is presumed that, in some manner, they harvest magical power from starlight. It is also suggested, without evidence or support, that they are located at the meeting points of ancient lines of magical power. However, modern arcane arts have discovered no perceptible evidence of such lines of power. Those with magical talents can draw magicka from Eylead wells to restore their own reservoirs of magical power. No ritual or arcane knowledge is necessary, suggesting that these wells were designed to serve persons not skilled in the magical arts. Once drained, the wells replenish again only at magical midnight. Once recharged, they appear to radiate magical power back into the sky, which prompts some to theorize they are also objects with religious or magical ritual significance, perhaps a means of offering magic back to the heavens. Welkin stones, Aldmeris, Skystone, Heavenstone, literally Sky Child, are pieces of cut and enchanted meteoric glass which apparently act as storage devices for magical power. A magical talent can restore his reservoirs of magicka from such stones. Alas, the means of restoring power to these stones may have been lost with the Eyleads. Currently, these objects simply crumble to dust after they have been used. Great Welkin stones are exceptionally large pieces of enchanted meteoric glass. Scholars believe that at the heart of each ancient Eylead city, a great Welkin stone was the source of the settlement's magical enchantments. It may be that these great stones were linked to the lesser stones, restoring and maintaining their power. In any case, research on these great Welkin stones is impossible, since all the known Eylead ruins have been looted of their great stones, and no examples of these great stones are known to survive. Another rare enchanted item found in Eylead ruins is called a Varla stone, the Aldmeris Starstone. Varla stones are remarkably powerful, enabling untrained users to restore magical energy to any number of enchanted items. Because of their great value and utility, these items are also extremely rare, but since they are small and easily concealed, diligent explorers may still occasionally come across them in any Eylead ruin. Eylead wells, Welkin stones, Varla stones. Consider, then, these marvels of magical enchantment. Are we then to conclude that the Eyleads were a superior race and culture? Did they so exceed us in any art and craft that they mock the feeble powers of Third Era wizards? Never! The Eyleads were powerful, yes, and cunning, but they were neither good nor wise, and so they were struck down. Their works have passed from Nirn, save these rare and sparkling treasures. Their ancient cities are dark and empty, save for the grim revenants and restless spirits condemned forever to walk the halls, keeping their melancholy vigils over bones and dust.
Shipments arrived. Our shipments arrived and the following items are on your list. You want in? I need to see the gold. Fire salt, paralytic poison, blackbriar private reserve, shadow banish wine, chokeberry preserves. Letter from home. My dearest Laurent, I know that there is no power that will stop them from taking you away from me and into battle upon foreign fields, for I understand that this is your duty as a captain of the Blades. As your wife, I should respect such things. Nevertheless, the fear that you may never return troubles me. Know that I think of you always. We are bound together in this life and in the next. Your beloved, Emma. The Epic of the Grey Falcon. Anito Jone, editor. As uncovered and translated by Anito Jone, royal archaeologist, from an ancient tome. This tale comes from some time in the Second Era, most probably after the time of the Khanatan flu, or at least, I have so surmised, due to reasons in the text. Whether or not the tale is true, it remains an interesting story of survival. The reader will, I trust, forgive me if I translated the epic somewhat informally. The message, I think, is universal and should not be misread. Enjoy, gentle reader. A.J.J. The Grey Falcon, a small warship of the Somerset Isle, was patrolling deep in the ocean for a pirate that had been looting the coast. The first 3 weeks out were uneventful. 2 hours after sunset on the 22nd day out of port, the lookout spotted a top of a sail in the moonlight, just on the horizon. "Sail! To starboard! Forward quarter!" the lookout of the Grey Falcon cried. The crew and the captain of the Grey Falcon were quickly roused and stumbled to the deck. "'Tis the ship we're looking for, Captain," said the lookout. "All hands to battle stations, all archers to their posts," the captain yelled. "Full ahead!" The two ships closed, and a dark figure stepped out into the forecastle of the pirate ship. The figure made a gesture with his hands, and a giant ball of fire streaked toward the Grey Falcon. The ball of fire struck the Grey Falcon in her sails, quickly catching them aflame. The figure made another gesture. Large bolts of ice streaked out from his hands and hit the Grey Falcon just above and below the waterline, gouging large holes in her hull. The Grey Falcon was mortally wounded. The captain cried, "All hands abandon ship!" as he was cut off by the pirate's arrow shot into his throat. As the Grey Falcon, aflame and listing badly, plunged into the sea, one of her sailors, Derek Seaspit, managed to avoid the pirate arrows and spells to make his way to a lifeboat, lowering it into the darkness below. Just as the lifeboat entered the water, a quick grey shape jumped into it. Derek looked and saw it was Helnor Snarlsbane, a Khajiit mercenary assigned to the ship. The two rowed the small boat away as the Grey Falcon finished her descent into the sea. In the darkness, the pirate ship missed their small craft. After the two rowed well out of the pirates' possible view, they both collapsed from exhaustion. Early morning the next day, they took an inventory of their lifeboat stores. Normally, the lifeboat carried enough food and water to supply 7 people for at least 10 days. In place of the food, though, Helnor found a note. The food in this lifeboat was found to be in violation of Somerset Navy regulations during inspection. In accordance to that article, the food was taken away and destroyed. A replacement may be obtained by redeeming this letter at the Port Supply Office. Signed, Lieutenant Inspector Windhollow. Helnor read aloud. Said Derek to his Khajiit companion, "We have plenty of water, but we are out of food. I don't know what we're going to do. I suppose we could try fishing, but we have no bait. There's no chance we can make it back to land before we starve to death. 'Twill be over a month in this craft." "Wait, I have an idea," said Helnor with a gleam in his cat-like eyes. 6 weeks later, the lifeboat entered the port of Corwich. As it was tethered to the dock, a solitary figure was pulled out, looking weather-beaten and thin. One of the dock workers peered into the life raft after the figure was taken away to the port healer for treatment. What's this?" a worker said to himself as he picked up a large bone from the boat, a bone bleached white by the sun. After the sole survivor of the Grey Falcon recovered from his ordeal, he was taken to the inquest for the death of Derek Seaspit and placed on a chair before the magistrate. "We here in High Rock have a dim view of cannibalism. You'd better have a good reason for your actions," the Inquisitor boomed at Helnor Snarlsbane. "By the lady, do you?" Helnor stood and said, "Your Honor, I had no choice. There was no food, and it was at least 2 months to the closest port. We both decided this was the only way someone would make it. Well, then, I suppose that is understandable if somewhat distasteful, the Inquisitor said. You think it was distasteful? Halnor muttered to himself. I didn't have any seasoning. One final thing, Mr. Snarlsbane. How was it decided that you would be the one that would dine on the other? The toss of a coin? Halnor drew himself up and said, Your Honor, it was very simple. Derek Seaspit was a vegetarian. Case dismissed. The Fall of the Usurper by Palax Ilithre. A speculative analysis as to the part played by Baron Othrock of Dwinnen in the downfall of the Cameron usurper. People of Dwinnen celebrate Othrocktide every 5th of Sun's Dawn, the date when, according to legend, a man emerged from the wilderness of High Rock and defeated the undead of Castle Whitemore to become the first Baron of Dwinnen. Few people believe the legend anymore, but there most certainly was a Baron Othrock of Dwinnen who was destined to become one of the true heroes of High Rock, if not all Tamriel. The legend, as most any Dwinnen child will tell you, is that years and years ago, archivists have agreed to the year 3E253. The people of Dwinnen were ruled by a lich and its armies of zombies, ghosts, vampires, and skeletons. Othrock was blessed by the gods and given an army of men and animals to destroy the dead. He brought peace and prosperity to the land, growing more powerful as the land improved. Years later, he led the tiny barony against the Cameron usurper and saved all of Tamriel. How much credit the Baron ought to receive for the defeat of the Cameron usurper has been debated, but it is an incontestable fact that in the year 3E267, the Cameron usurper's relentless move toward High Rock was halted around the area of contemporary Dwinnen. Dwinnen is actually larger than it was in the first Baron's day. It did not, in fact, have a seaport, but the Battle of Firewaves was a coastal battle. The fact that the battle probably did not occur in Dwinnen does not itself belittle the Baron's participation in it. The Cameron usurper had conquered Hammerfell and Valenwood by means of a large army, which by legend consisted entirely of undead and Daedra, but was mostly composed of Redguards and Wood Elves. In all probability, the usurper summoned the Daedra and undead in Arenthia, and slowly replaced the original summoned creatures with the armies of his conquered territories. Most armies of Valenwood have been historically mercenary. Word of the usurper's conquests reached High Rock in early 266, but preparations to repeal the invasion did not begin until early the following year. Historians attribute 2 factors to High Rock's hesitancy. The primary powers of the Bay were ruled by particularly inept monarchs. Wayrest and Sentinel both had kings in their minority, and Daggerfall was torn by contention between Helena and her cousin Gileath. The Lord of Reich Gradkeep, now Anticlair, was deathly ill through 266 and finally died in the end of the year. There were, in short, no leaders to unite the province against the usurper. Of the leaders with any influence, at least 8, the 8 traitors of legend, made secret allegiances with the usurper to protect their lands. The secondary reason for the lethargy of High Rock had to do with the depth of relation between the province and the Septim Empire. For the first time since the beginning of the dynasty, an emperor ruled Tamriel who was neither Breton nor had spent any of his childhood in High Rock. The difference between Sepphoris II and his cousin Uriel IV, who preceded him, was appalling to the people of High Rock. Even mad emperors like Pelagius III revered the Bretons over all other races, and cousins and younger siblings of the emperors have ruled in High Rock since the foundation of the empire. Sepphoris was annoyed with Skyrim and Morrowind's sympathies. The attitude of the common men of High Rock was sympathetic toward the Cameron usurper as an arch foe of this hated emperor. The Baron and his less legendary allies, the rulers of Ycalan, Phrygia, and Cambria, changed this favorable perception. News of the usurper's barbaric treatment of captives and abuse of conquered lands, mostly true, spread rapidly through the territories, and then to other neutral lands. Within a few months, the greatest navy ever combined organized along the High Rock edge of the Iliac Bay. Only the navy of Uriel V's ill-fated invasion of Akavir was comparable. How the combined forces of High Rock defeated the endless army of the Cameron usurper is certainly worthy of a lengthy book in itself, and perhaps it is best left to the public imagination. Certainly the weather worked against the usurper, which is reason in itself to attribute divine intervention. Baron Othrok's divine purpose is the central theme of Othroctide, after all. As the poet Breloch wrote, to find the facts, the wisest always look first to the fiction.
You're a bit pale. Need a drink? Come on, take a few sips for me, my love.